The predator beast was untamable, until a human scratched it behind the ears. The Zephyrian delegation stood in perfect formation, their crystalline exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh lights of Detention Bay 7. Commander Vexal clicked his mandibles nervously as he gestured toward the massive reinforced containment unit that dominated the center of the chamber. The specimen has killed 14 handlers across 3 star systems, Vexal explained to the newly arrived human representative. It responds to no form of conditioning, chemical pacification, or neural suppression. The Galactic Council has deemed it a Class X threat. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lone human in the room, nodded thoughtfully as she studied the containment specifications on her tablet. Around her, representatives from 7 different species maintained what they considered a safe distance from the unit. The Karathi had positioned themselves behind their personal shield generators, while the Villani delegation wore full environmental suits, despite being in a controlled atmosphere. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Sarah asked, her calm tone causing several aliens to exchange bewildered glances. Most species would have demanded immediate evacuation protocols by now. "A Zarathul," Vexal replied, his voice dropping to what his species considered a whisper. "Native to the death world of Cathara Prime. 4 meters tall, 6 limbs ending in molecular sharp claws, exoskeleton harder than battleship armor, and an intelligence that borders on precognitive. It's been captured for the intergalactic exotic creature preserve, but you can't actually preserve something that kills everyone who approaches it," Sarah finished, already walking toward the containment unit. The assembled aliens recoiled in horror. "Dr. Chen," Vexal chittered frantically, "Regulation 847 Alpha clearly states that no biological entity may approach within 50 meters of a Class X specimen without proper authorization," Sarah interrupted, pulling a datapad from her pocket. "Which I have." She showed him the document bearing the seal of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. "Earth has officially volunteered to take custody of your untamable beast." The silence that followed was broken only by the nervous clicking of Karathi translator implants, struggling to process the concept of voluntary proximity to certain death. Sarah approached the containment unit's viewing panel and peered inside. The Zarathul was magnificent, a creature that seemed designed by evolution's most ambitious fever dream. Its midnight black exoskeleton reflected no light, giving it an almost ethereal quality. 6 limbs moved with liquid grace as it paced, the confines of its prison, while its 4 eyes, each the size of a human head, tracked every movement in the observation chamber. "Beautiful," Sarah murmured, causing the Zephyrian commander to question whether humans had any survival instincts whatsoever. "Dr. Chen," Vexal ventured carefully, "perhaps you don't understand. This creature has demonstrated capabilities that defy conventional predator analysis. It appears to anticipate strategies before they're implemented, adapts to containment measures in real time, and shows no response to any known pacification techniques." Sarah was already studying the creature's behavioral logs on her tablet. "Says here you've tried everything from sonic dampeners to pheromone therapy, neural suppressors, electromagnetic restraints, even gravity manipulation." She looked up at the assembled delegates. "Did anyone think to try just talking to it?" The question was met with the kind of silence typically reserved for moments when someone suggests breathing vacuum or swimming in a star. "Dr. Chen," the Villani ambassador spoke through his suit's voice modulator, "the creature has no recognizable communication organs. It doesn't respond to standard linguistic patterns, mathematical sequences, or even basic emotional resonance broadcasts." Sarah nodded absently, then did something that would be discussed in xenobiology textbooks for the next 3 centuries. She walked directly to the containment unit's access panel and began entering her authorization codes. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility as the assembled aliens either fled toward the exits or activated every defensive system they possessed. Vexal's voice cracked as he screamed into his communicator for emergency containment teams. Sarah ignored the chaos and stepped into the containment unit. The Zarathul turned to face her, all, four eyes focusing with laser intensity. Its body went perfectly still, the kind of predatory stillness that preceded strikes measured in microseconds. Every muscle in its powerful frame coiled like a spring loaded with enough force to level a building. Sarah looked up at the creature that towered above her and said, "Hey there, beautiful. Rough day?" The Zarathal tilted its head slightly, a gesture so subtle that the external cameras barely registered it. Its eyes, organs capable of detecting movement across entire light spectrums, studied this small, soft creature that had somehow bypassed every safety protocol in existence. Sarah noticed the slight movement and smiled. "Yeah, I bet this place is pretty boring. Four walls, bright lights, people poking at you all day." She took a step closer, and the alien observers collectively held their breath. "I grew up with dogs, you know. Well, not exactly like you, but there's something about the way you hold yourself." The creature's head tilted further, and Sarah caught something in its posture that the previous handlers had missed. It wasn't coiled to strike. It was tense with uncertainty. This was a predator, yes, but it was also a being trapped in an incomprehensible situation, surrounded by creatures it couldn't understand. "You're not really a monster, are you?" Sarah said softly, extending her hand slowly. "You're just scared." She reached up and, while the entire galactic scientific community watched in absolute terror, gently scratched behind what she had correctly identified as the creature's auditory processing organs. The change was instantaneous. The Zarathal's entire body relaxed, a deep, rumbling sound emerging from somewhere in its chest cavity. Its four eyes actually closed partway, and it leaned into Sarah's touch with the unmistakable body language of an animal experiencing pleasure. For the first time in months. "There we go," Sarah murmured, continuing the gentle scratching motion. "That's better, isn't it?" Through the observation window, Commander Vexall watched his understanding of predator behavior crumble into dust. "How?" he whispered. Dr. Chen looked back at the assembled delegates, still calmly scratching behind the ears of the most dangerous creature in known space. "Sometimes," she said, "the most effective training tool isn't force or technology. Sometimes, it's just recognizing that even the fiercest predator is still a living being that needs comfort and understanding." The Zarathal settled onto the floor of its containment unit, allowing Sarah to scratch behind both sets of auditory organs simultaneously. Its rumbling purr, for lack of a better term, grew louder, filling the chamber with a sound that somehow managed to be both alien and utterly familiar. "The funny thing about humans," Sarah continued, now sitting cross-legged next to the creature that had terrorized half the galaxy, "is that we've spent thousands of years learning to read animal behavior. We've domesticated everything from wolves to whales, not through domination, but through partnership." She looked directly at Vexall through the viewing panel. "Your species sees a weapon to be contained. We see a friend waiting to be understood." As if to prove her point, the Zarathal gently wrapped one of its massive limbs around Sarah in what could only be described as a hug, careful to keep its claws retracted and away from her fragile form. The reports filed that day would revolutionize interspecies animal handling throughout the galaxy. But the image that stuck in everyone's memory was simple: a small human woman and a towering alien predator, sitting together in comfortable silence, both finally understanding that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to connect. Earth's application to manage the intergalactic exotic creature preserve was approved unanimously the following week.